It was raining hard that night in New York, the kind of steady rain that made the city feel tired. The sidewalks glistened under the yellow streetlights, and people hurried past with umbrellas and lowered heads, each lost in their own world. Inside his car, Adrian Blake sat quietly in the back seat, staring out the window. He was used to the city like this, cold, busy, uncaring. But for some reason that night felt heavier than usual. Maybe it was because of the board meeting he had just left. Another deal gone wrong. Another fight over power and numbers. He had everything most people dreamed of. Skyscrapers with his name on them, private jets, a penthouse that touched the clouds. But lately, none of it meant anything. The silence in his life was starting to echo. As his car slowed at a red light, Adrian noticed something small and still by a bakery window. It was a little girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, sitting on the wet sidewalk, knees pulled to her chest. Her hair was damp, her hoodie too big, her shoes soaked through. In her hands was a small paper cup. People walked past her like she was invisible. Through the glass, she stared at a cake sitting inside the bakery, an old one, a little dry, pushed to the corner of the display. Her lips moved slightly as if she was whispering to it. "Stop the car," Adrian said suddenly. His driver hesitated. "Sir, this isn't the best area." "Just stop," Adrian said again. He stepped out into the rain. The cold hit him instantly, soaking his shoes, his coat. The girl looked up, startled. Her eyes were gray, not dull but tired, like she had seen too much for her age. "Hey," Adrian said gently. "You okay out here?" She looked down quickly, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, sir. I wasn't asking you for money, I just asked the bakery lady if she had any expired cake." But she said no. "I haven't eaten since yesterday." The words hit him harder than he expected. Expired cake. Not food, not money, an expired cake. He had heard every kind of request in his life. Investors asking for millions, employees asking for raises, charities asking for donations. But never that. Never something so small and honest. The bakery door opened, and the woman behind the counter frowned. "She's been sitting here all week," she said. "I told her we don't give away leftovers. She should go to a shelter." Adrian looked at the girl again. She didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't even lift her head. Something in him cracked. He walked inside and bought cake, and came back out. "Here," he said softly, placing the box beside her. Her eyes widened. "For me?" he nodded. "For you." They sat together under the small awning, rain dripping from the edge above them. She picked up a piece with her tiny hands and ate slowly, like she didn't want to waste a single crumb. Then she looked up at him and smiled, a small, shy smile that somehow felt brighter than all the lights of the city. "What's your name?" he asked. "Mia," she said. "Mia Grace." He smiled faintly. "That's a beautiful name, Mia. Where's your family?" Her smile faded. "My mom passed away 2 months ago. She used to bake cakes. She always said, 'There's still sweetness left, even in what's expired.'" Her voice trembled. "They sent me to a foster home after she died. But they were mean. So I ran away. I just wanted to find her old bakery." Adrian didn't know what to say. He just nodded and looked at the small piece of cake left in the box. Her words stayed with him. Sweetness in what's expired. That night, after he dropped her at a nearby shelter, Adrian couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the rain, the cold, the way she had held that cake like it was treasure. The city below looked beautiful from his penthouse, but it felt empty. For the first time in years, he felt like the one without anything. The next morning, he skipped his meetings and went back to the bakery. The sidewalk was clean. No sign of her. He checked the shelter, and she wasn't there either. His chest tightened. He told himself it wasn't his problem. But the truth was, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He drove around for hours until he finally found her under a bridge, wrapped in a damp blanket, asleep. Her small body looked fragile, almost lost among the shadows. He knelt down beside her. "Mia," he whispered. She stirred and blinked up at him, scared. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked. "No. Adrian said softly. You did everything right. I just can't walk away again. He brought her to his home that evening. She didn't say much during the ride, just stared out the window in silence. When they entered the penthouse, she froze. The marble floors, the chandeliers, the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was like another world. This place is too big, she said quietly. I don't belong here, Adrian smiled sadly. Neither do I sometimes. Over the next few weeks, things slowly changed. Adrian arranged everything, medical checkups, a tutor, therapy, legal guardianship. But it wasn't just about helping her. It was about finding something inside himself he didn't know he'd lost. Mia brought warmth into the cold spaces of his life. She would sit at the kitchen table drawing while he worked nearby, sometimes asking simple questions that stayed with him for hours. Why do people care more about money than people? She asked once. He didn't have an answer. He started canceling meetings. He began visiting children's homes, donating quietly without press or cameras. His assistant didn't understand it. Sir, this isn't good for business, she warned. But business was the last thing on his mind. One morning, Mia came into his office holding a small box. I have something for you, she said shyly. Inside was a tiny metal charm, shaped like a piece of an old cake mold. I found it in my mom's bakery, she said. It broke, but I kept the piece. You helped me see that even old things can make something new. Adrian swallowed hard. Mia, he said, his voice shaking a little. You didn't just find something old. You brought something back to life, me. Years passed. Mia grew up in that home, surrounded by love and care. She never forgot the rain or the kindness that changed everything. And Adrian, the man once defined by power and money, became known for something else entirely. He sold off several of his companies and used the money to fund shelters and programs for homeless kids. The media called it the Blake Foundation, but to him, it was simply what felt right. One spring morning, the smell of freshly baked bread filled a small street in New York. A new bakery had opened, bright, simple, and welcoming. Above the door, in soft golden letters, it read Mia's Grace. Every evening, the bakery gave out free cakes to children who couldn't afford them. On opening day, Adrian stood beside Mia, now a young woman, smiling at the line of happy kids waiting outside. You sure about this? He asked her quietly. She nodded. Mom used to say there's always sweetness left even in what's expired. I think she was talking about people, not cakes. He smiled. I think you're right. They watched as a little boy reached the counter and received his first slice of cake. His face lit up with joy. Adrian felt a familiar warmth in his chest, the same one he felt that night in the rain when he saw Mia for the first time. Funny, he said softly. All the money in the world and this is what really feels rich. Mia looked at him and smiled. That's because kindness doesn't cost anything, but it changes everything. The rain began again outside, gentle this time, like a memory returning. The smell of sugar and hope filled the air. And as Adrian watched the children laugh and share, he realized something he had been searching for his whole life, that the truest form of wealth wasn't about what you owned, but about what you gave away. Sometimes the smallest act, like buying a forgotten cake on a rainy night, can change a life forever, maybe even two.